moving right along then. The next part is assessment, and this is assessment for reading. By the way, the pictures on the top, okay, the man on the left was one of our first ITA kids 20-some years ago. He was in 2nd grade, and he was a very sad and fairly angry little guy because he was not reading. He just was really, really struggling. Today, he's not only a master's level teacher, he's also a reading teacher, and he's done phenomenal things in his district to help them understand how to reach kids who are struggling. The little guy he's working with is my grandson. Both my granddaughter and my grandson have had reading disabilities. And notice I said had. Both of them are excellent, excellent readers today because of ITA, because we had this program. So anyway, that's why I keep using the little story that shows up with these pictures. So we're going to talk now about getting ready for reading fluency intervention. The reading fluency intervention, you will start at the same time as you do the ITA writing, okay? Kids using this process that I've called ROAR, Repeated Oral Assisted Reading, can get to be accurate and fluent readers long before they've corrected their phonological and phonics problems, long before. And so you shouldn't just wait until that's corrected to then go to reading fluency. But it's important that you match the student to the right book in order to do it correctly. And so that's what we're going to do right now, is talking about how you assess it. So what is a student's instructional reading level? I've just listed it here. If they're young kids, you can start with 91% accurate, which means out of every 100 words, they're not going to miss more than 9 words. If they're missing more than 9 words, it's at frustration level. You got to put it back and find an easier book. For older kids, they really should be at least at 95% accuracy in order to say that's instructional. If they get way up around 98% accurate, that's an independent reading level, which a lot of our kids don't get. You can use what are called CBAs, or curriculum-based assessments, to determine the instructional level. And I provided in your packet the CBAs we use, so you'd be able to use those from 1st grade through 8th grade. If you have people who can read at 8th grade level, they're doing quite well. They probably don't need this intervention. So we have CBAs for 1st through 8th. They're 1 minute of oral reading, a grade level passage, and you measure their accuracy and their fluency. Fluency is the words per minute correct. This correlates very highly with comprehension. So here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to listen to what we call deviations from print. Notice here that I have many deviations from print, which could be substitutions. We have a kid who says goat instead of gate. He opened the goat and keeps reading, because in order to keep reading, even though it doesn't make sense, he has to keep going. Or he says rad instead of word, so it isn't a real word. Or he omits a word or part of a word. Or he inserts words that aren't there, or parts of words that aren't there. Or he repeats the same words again, in the park, because that's a deviation from fluency. Or he just sits there and waits for you to give the word. Those are the kind of deviations from fluency. If you look at your next page, you have a CBA training 1st grade right there, right? Okay, it's right on the right-hand side. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play an audio tape of a little 1st grader reading Fun in the Sun. And this will be very easy to do because this child is very inaccurate and slow. I want you to just slash anything that's not read correctly or where I have to give the word, okay? So let's just listen and figure out how accurate, and we'll do the fluency then too.
Farm.
Mm-hmm.
This is fun.
Fun.
Fun in the sun. Son and Tim landed
Mm-hmm.
on a big bus. The bus was Eat.
Mm-hmm.
The bus tack
Okay.
them to the
Lake.
lake. The sun made
Mm-hmm.
where am I? The sud
Okay. Did you get this? That first of all, road was wrong, so that's a slash, right? And then hot was missed. Then took, she said ta'ak or something, and lake. And she did not get sand, and she stopped right there. Okay? So if you count how many words, you notice in the first line there's 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. There are 24 words that she read in 1 minute, right? And she had 6 errors or 6 deviations from print. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, I didn't count the one in the title, but it is an error also. Pardon?
She said Sam incorrectly. Did you not count that because it's a proper?
I may not have heard it. Okay. That is what'll happen sometimes, is that 2 people hearing the same one might hear somewhat different. In any case, she's extremely slow, right? It comes down to 18 words a minute correct. 18 words a minute correct. This is at the end of first grade. Average fluency is 55 words per minute correct at the end of first grade. That's average fluency. She's reading 18 words a minute correct. We just tested one of our little guys who's at the end of second grade. He was reading 12 words a minute correct at second grade. We put him back in the ITA book where he is, and he was up to 37 words a minute correct. Still not where he should be, but much, much better than when he's trying to read traditional orthography. So 18 words a minute correct is her baseline for words per minute correct. Then if you take 18 and divide it by the total words, she's 75% accurate. 75%. Rather than, 91 or better. Okay. Clearly, this is a child who at the end of first grade should have been getting help already. Okay. Questions about how to do this? Let's do another one. Again, I'll put the deviations from print over here. Listen for substitutions, for non-words, for omissions, insertions, repetitions, or waiting for the teacher to say it. So if you turn it over to your second grade passage, okay?
This is student number 4 in second grade. Go ahead.
One day, John's grandfather brought home lots of apples. Pick a red and smile apple to eat. Here, grandfather said, but don't sow any of the apple seeds. You do an apple tree will grow in your tummy. So John picked an apple and began to
You're done. Thank you so much.
All right. The last one she read was eat, which would make 48 words. And what I got listening to that were deviations on Jan's. She stumbled quite a bit trying to figure out what that one was. Brought, lots of, she repeated. Shiny, her, swallow, seeds, and those are the ones that I picked out. So it came out to 10 errors. So you have 48 words minus 10 errors gives her 38 words per minute correct. Keep in mind she's at the end of second grade. Here in the Midwest, the average words per minute correct is 110 words per minute correct at the end of second grade. They've really attained fluency. This little girl isn't even reading at as fast as an end of first grader. Tom, you have a question on that?
In the second paragraph, I heard her say, so I think she said Bob St. John, but I thought I heard her say picked up.
Yeah, she said up instead of an. I think.
I heard the and too. I thought she said picked
Oh, really? So she put up instead and then an?
added a word.
Could be.
So if they add a word,
That's also deviation from print. You bet. Yes, it is.
Now, if they mispronounce a name once, you don't count it each time.
Correct. Thank you for mentioning that. When they mispronounce a name the first time, usually I give them the name. Just say it. And if they keep saying it wrong, you can just ignore it after that for proper names. Yeah. Okay. So you can see that 38 words per minute correct, if you have a fluency chart, and you will, that's in your materials, is way below where she should be. And then when you do the words read correctly divided by the total words, you get 79% accurate, way, way below where she should be for reading at the end of second grade. All right? So these are grade level passages. These tell us how they're doing on grade level passages. It only tells us they can't do grade level. You can use the CBAs that are in your packet to go down to find what level they're to be in. But let me tell you what I would do with these two little girls. First of all, if the instructional reading level is below third grade, I always start with ITA books. I don't care whether they're adults, high school, elementary. They start with the ITA books because I know they're going to get remediated faster. I did for some years, especially for older kids, just use traditional orthography books for the reading part. And they just didn't make the kind of progress they can if they get into a totally phonetically regular. Now for that little girl, she's way at the pre-primer level. And these are the ITA pre-primers. They're very, very simple. In fact, when you're working with it, you really have to start to cover up the pictures so they're reading the words and not the pictures. Okay. I might also start some of the first graders at this level, which are the ITA primers. Now, that's pretty tough for older kids, and very few older kids need to start this low. But this is where I start with virtually all of the kids who are below third grade level. So for older kids, I start with book 2 of the ITA readers. All right? And again, they are stories that are written about young kids, but the fact that older kids are getting success in reading really makes it fine to do this because they know they can work through them pretty fast. Okay? Now, for third grade or higher, you need to find the readability of the books. Over here in the blue package, the blue box, we have all of our fourth grade readability books. We've gone online to check, or we've done a readability formula to check that they are at the beginning of fourth grade level. And so if a student is reading at fourth grade level, the tutor will pull one of these books and practice with it. And one of the things that you will probably want to see when you get a chance is there are many of these high interest, low vocabulary. For this one is Livewire's Chillers. It's a shock for Anne. And when you look at it, you can see that it's low-level reading, so it's at their readability level, but it's high-level interest. It's about teenagers, okay? Teenagers and young adults. So it's very important to get those kinds of books for students to be reading, and if you're working with older kids with reading disabilities. You have a website there where you can find readability on quite a few of the words. You can also check readability of a book by typing in passages into Word and turning on readability statistics in your Word. That will tell you what the reading level of the book is. I know there's lots of controversy about using readability formulas, but in over 20 years of doing this, I know that if I get a kid who's at 4th grade level and I use the Flesch-Kincaid readability formula, I've matched them. They are, without a doubt, in the difficulty level of the book that they need, okay? There is no substitute for something like that. Mike, you have a question?
Quick question, back one thing is, if you would move to ITA if a student is below 3rd grade, is that 3.0 reading level or below the end of 3rd grade, 3.9?
Good question. I would use it if it's, sometimes it's kids who are already into 3rd grade, but they're slow. They're much slower. I'll still use ITA. Otherwise, it's near the end of 3rd. Okay? Yes, Gwen?
How does accelerated reader levels compare with the Flesch-Kincaid?
They don't. Accelerated reader levels are, first of all, meant to be comprehension, not the ability to read accurately. Secondly, there really are multiple guess. The accelerated reader STAR test is very unreliable. You've probably seen this, that sometimes you get high on the kids, and the next time you test them, if you test them a couple of months later when you can, you get low. Anything that just gives you a comprehension level is not going to tell you where the kids are. And that's not a good comprehension level anyway. Okay? Yes, Gwen?
What about Fontes and Pinnell leveling?
Same thing.
It's based on comprehension?
It's based on comprehension. Yep. And most of the level books aren't accurately typed for how hard they are to read. I do use leveling systems. I use the reading recovery leveling systems for 1st grade level materials. But of course, using this system, I don't worry about that anyway because I put them in ITA. But if you are using a leveling system through 1st grade, I would use reading recovery. It's finer tuned than Fontes and Pinnell. And then from 2nd grade and up, I would use a readability formula. Many of the books you can find on this website. Some you're going to have to find the readability yourself. Admittedly, it takes a while to develop a library of books that are at different reading levels. No question. We've worked quite hard on that for where do they go once they're out of ITA? Where do we find books that will continue to move them up to where they should be at? Because we have some 8th grade students who should be reading high school because they can listen at that level. And so we don't stop with them until they're able to read, at least 8th grade with fluency and accuracy, of course.